West Ham are now in the bottom three before we even get a chance to kick off against Tottenham tomorrow. The results have gone against West Ham in a big, big way. Gonzo, you've just finished watching Southampton at Stamford Bridge.
Yeah, and to be fair, and the Everton Leeds game as well. I had them on split screen. So, that was not. Look, Chelsea rallied towards the end, and there were big stops in the game. As a big injury to Aspilicueta actually. However, up until the point where Ward-Prowse scored his goal, there was Southampton were in it. Southampton were playing really, really well. There were massive parts of that game where they just had more possession. They actually looked comfortable. Don't get me wrong, Chelsea rallied towards the end and had a couple of really good chances. One of them was cleared off the line. I think Sterling was possibly one of them. Somebody else as well. There were desperate measures by Chelsea at the end, but there's an overview of that game. You couldn't help but watch that game and think that we think it was an opportunity missed for us, because obviously any time that we put pressure on Chelsea when we just played them, they sort of folded and capitulated. Chelsea, and it was quite interesting really to watch Southampton have so much possession up in Chelsea's half, which stopped Chelsea doing the things that Chelsea did to us. So I think Southampton actually, looked pretty good for large parts of that game. And Chelsea fans will say that they should have got something from the game, but I felt like Southampton were in control for a lot of that game, actually.
Does this make you more frustrated? Obviously, last weekend we drew at home to Chelsea, and there's an element of afterwards. We were on the same page that we thought it was possibly 2 points lost rather than one gained, and today's result. It's nearly full time anyway. It's still going actually, the Chelsea game, but
sure.
Let's just assume Southampton do win there. Does that sort of take any shine off the point that we got against Chelsea last week?
It does, because they were a team there for the taking. It wasn't just that either. I watched Bournemouth against Newcastle maybe a week ago, something like that. I think Bournemouth played Newcastle after we played them.
Yeah,
and Bournemouth were the better team. And I looked at Bournemouth and looked at them get about Newcastle and thought actually there was an opportunity there as well. And it's just sort of what we do. It's incredibly frustrating that we don't capitalise on these opportunities, because we're safety. We just go safety first. And I can't claim an encyclopedic knowledge of all the other teams. I don't. I watch Premier League football sporadically. Today I've had a day at home. I've been able to sit back and watch some. But I don't see too many teams who approach the games like we do. They sort of all have a little bit of a pop and have an attack, don't they? And that was weird. Yeah, to answer your question, the Chelsea game, for us to finish the half so strongly, as I mentioned at the time, to not get in there and for David Moyes to say these boys are there for the taking, not to recognise it. I think that's the thing, not to notice that they had a wounded animal, and then for us to come out the second half and just, hold on, let's just be grateful for what we've got. Everyone else is going for it. Everyone else seems to be fighting for their lives. Everyone else seems to be attacking, and if we're going to go out, we're going to go out on our shield basically, and we don't seem to be doing that.
Yeah, I think it's frustrating really, because last week when you draw against Chelsea, you get told generally, it's a good point, blah blah blah, and I've said in the video last week, teams around us will beat Chelsea between now and the end of the season. Yes, Chelsea will win most of the games. You'd like to hope so. But literally a week later, Southampton have gone to Stamford Bridge, picked up 3 points. Thank you very much. And now, they're going through the managers. They're looking to get a replacement manager in. They possibly just edged ahead of Leeds United in getting their ideal manager. That now might be a manager that I thought, I don't fancy that Southampton. One might be thinking, actually, hang on, you're looking at the league table. You're not that bad, actually. It looks a hell of a lot better than it did before today's games kicked off. So it might just benefit them in the manager search as well. But they've gone there. They've got the 3 points. And annoyingly, I think the most worrying thing is, we've all been doing this, which 3 are going to go down. And I think Bournemouth and Southampton have been the most popular picks. And They've both picked up a massive 3 points today as well, going to places where we haven't won. Bournemouth winning at Wolves as well. Can't comment too much because we haven't seen that game, but still a hugely impressive victory for Bournemouth.
Well, it is, and I thought they've looked really, really sharp. Actually, as I say, I haven't watched them today, clearly, but they picked up the win. I watched them against Newcastle. They're fast, they're fit, That they attack. They got good physicality in the centre of the pitch as well. So there are even times when they were outnumbered against Newcastle, sometimes in the middle of the pitch, but it didn't seem to matter because of particularly that Billing there. He sort of eats up a lot of ground. He makes good tackles, physically imposed himself, and they got real pace when they attack. So they have qualities that will trouble other teams. So these are not that. I understand why people are saying it, but these teams are disappearing. This whole thing about, Bournemouth being worse than us, not sure they are. Southampton worse than us, not sure they are. We're exactly where we deserve to be. If you look at the form table, we have the third worst form in the Premier League. Everyone above us is better. This thing about Leicester dropping down, Palace dropping down, this is not what's going to happen here. We're really, really scrambling around at the moment. It's a very, very it's a tough time to be a West Ham fan, mate,
The good thing about Bournemouth, I guess, is their next 4 games are Man City, Arsenal, Liverpool, and Aston Villa. So you would imagine their points tally in their next 4 games is going to be pretty minimal. However, I think if you said a week ago, well, what do you expect their next 5 games? You say, I don't know if they'll get anything at Wolves and might get a point at the most. Well, they've gone there and got 3, so they're already at least 2 points better off than possibly what they expected. And they're only 1 game into that run of 5 fixtures. So they've got a tough set of fixtures coming up. Who's the other team? Everton, that's it. Everton's the one we need to discuss. Now, you watched that game. That's the game I chose to watch as well. And I thought, we speak about missed opportunities in reference to the Chelsea game. And there was this acceptance maybe, or this hope or belief that should Moyes have got sacked prior to the January transfer window, Sean Dyche was going to be the man that West Ham would go after. And I think there was a general positive vibe around that potential appointment, which is, you'll keep us up kind of thing. And as soon as Everton appointed him, I think that was the general consensus from our subscribers. That's a good appointment for Everton. And started against Arsenal really well. Obviously got beat at Anfield. But today, they looked quite good, Everton. Very organised, very hard-working. They had a game plan. It's not the most prettiest thing. But you could see it. Get the ball out wide to McNeil and get those crosses in. Just keep on. It's law of average stuff. Just keep on putting those crosses in. Thought McNeil was possibly the best player on the pitch today for them. Not quite as composed or doesn't quite have that finished article in the final third. But if he, instead of only giving him a few opportunities, hoping one comes really good, you give him loads. Eventually, he's going to put some decent crosses in there with Onana and Decore running in to support Neil Maupay in. I know what you're way to say here, which is Moyes' number 1 target. Looks pretty good, doesn't he?
Well, I was actually going to pick out Decore. Actually, Onana went off. I think he might have an injury, which might play into it. But the way Decore wins the ball back, his athleticism was really, really impressive. That being said, I thought he was lucky not to get sent off. Really, he still wanted to go in for more when they had all that argy-bargy in there as well, which obviously involved Dwight McNeil in that, but they had a fizz about them. They had a buzz. They looked like, I thought it was a horrendous goal to concede by the goalkeeper. You do not want to be conceding that goal, do you? Let's be perfectly honest. That being said, they deserve to win that game. And yes, if you want to pick a team who I think are possibly worse than us, Leeds might be that team. But Everton don't look like that team. It has to be said.
I'll be honest though, Gonzo. I change my mind every week at the minute because the last couple of times I've seen Leeds, I thought actually they've got a little bit of grit about them. Do you know when they played Man United, they got beat, but for large parts of the game, they were probably the better side. They had that fight about them. They got beat by Forest, but they were the better team over 90 minutes. They did everything but score, and Forest sucker punched them. But I did think they might be all right. They've got enough about them. And I remember when we played Leeds at Ellen Road, one of the commentators said, if these two play like this for the rest of the season, they'll be fine. And I found myself agreeing with the commentator when he said it, because it was a real hearty battle between the two teams, if you like. It was a little bit low in quality at times, but it was fully committed teams, really hard working and stuff. So I keep changing my mind on Leeds because they were terrible today, but they haven't got a manager. I think you have to remember that they do not have a manager right now. So when they get that guy in, if it's the right appointment, they will improve. Now, obviously, they could make the wrong one. I think that former Ajax manager that they were heavily linked to last week would have been a terrible appointment for them. And I was actually hoping they were going to make that appointment because I thought, go on, do that, please, because that'll put you in the bottom 3. But funnily enough, the Leeds fans said, no, don't get him. He's crap. You can't have him in the Leeds zone. I went, all right, well, we won't get him then. That's who you don't want. We won't get him. It's almost like a trial by fan opinion before he's even come in, kind of thing. Not saying that that's the way you should run the club, but that's what they've done. They've listened to the fan feedback and said, right, well, we won't bother getting him. The two they want, they can't get from Fenerbahce and the other manager based in Spain. I've never really heard of them, truth be told, but they can't get their first choice, can't get their second choice. The fans don't want the third choice, so they're now working their way down the list, but they will eventually appoint someone else. A very good point for Nottingham Forest today, to home to Manchester City.
Yeah, it was late goal, I think, for that one. Yeah, you know, they're going for it, really, aren't they? I mean,
that's what happens if you get your January signings right, isn't it? You've got Chris Wood in January, and he's already earned them a point at home to what could be the champions.
Yeah. Well, they won't like that, City. You know, they're having beaten Arsenal and then to go and do that, an Arsenal win against Villa today was 4-2, I think. Yeah, I mean that it was all the results. It's hard to view one unless you've seen something that I haven't. Hard to view one and think that anything's gone for us today. But we have put ourselves in a situation where we have been for some time. Let's be fair, looking for teams that are worse than us rather than what we can proactively do. You know, we tick along and try not to lose, and we defend and we try and pick up a point, and it's just not what other teams are doing. They're going out and they're trying to win games, and you know what? As a result, some of them are winning games. I think it's massive pressure on the Tottenham game, which nobody needs.
Could that be a good thing, to Gonzo? Could that be a good thing actually? Because we've seen in the past, I still remember going to Anfield when he first came, the second time he came back, so going back to 2021 now, when we just signed Souček and Bowen, I'm sure it was then round about then, we were in the relegation battle anyway, and we went to Anfield, and I think it was on Monday night, and all the other teams had played before us, and every team around us had lost by at least 2 goals, and I'm including Watford.
I remember this,
yeah. Being one of those teams. And I remember going to Liverpool, and I think we lost 1-0, and it was actually the best result of the weekend of all the teams down the bottom, because we'd gone to arguably the toughest fixture and had the best result because we only lost 1-0. So could you work that round and say the results today are pushing us into that bottom 3 actually might force Moyes' hand a little bit? Because last weekend the early kickoff on the Saturday, it was a case of actually you could get away with playing for a point because they put the pressure on the rest of the team, saying West Ham have avoided defeat today. Now you're going to now they've won. Does it say to Moyes, you're going to have to go get a win here because the rest of them have?
I wish he was that cerebral. I do. Everything you said makes sense. I wish he had it within him to do that, to analyse to that extent, to have enough changeability about him to be able to swap it up. But he's like a broken record in many respects. You know, the tune actually the tune never changes and it remains broken. Just, you know, the player changes. You know, Ings isn't ready now, as you know, of course, and that's there's always somebody not ready. There's always this sort of thing. It doesn't matter. It couldn't have turned out worse in many respects. They got you know, Conte's not there for the game tomorrow, which is terrible news for West Ham because Stellini is going to be in the dugout and he's got 100% record every time he's taken over from Conte. Always
that can't be right.
Well,
was he not in charge on Tuesday or last weekend?
I don't think he was. I think he was in charge of the Man City game. I think Conte was back in then. I think he's played 5 or 6. He's won them. I think he takes the shackles off. Basically, it's Alan Irvine-itis with him. Remember when Moyes had COVID and then we won 4-0 and won 3-0? I think you have a bit of that with Tottenham, and also, you know, having spoken to a good friend of mine. Funny, it popped over earlier on this morning. He was saying to me, you know, Conte's really undermines the wingers and the fullback. Whoever's on that right side. He's at them all the time. He said you almost see like the wide players are liberated when Conte's not there, and they feel they're not being sort of shouted at and told off all the time. He's got a very good record. Christian Stellini, I think his name is. There you go. But you know, you make your own bed, and that's
you're right. James just saying Conte came back for Leicester in Milan.
Yeah,
I watched that Milan game. I didn't even notice him.
Anyway. So yeah. Well, he's not well, is he? Let's be fair. And not just that. To be fair, he's not in a good space either. His best mate was Gianluca Vialli, as I understand it as well, who just passed away. And I think he's lost a lot of people. I think he said in an interview, he said last year I've lost 4 of the people closest to me. So I think he's a little bit subdued. He's not quite on it, which, you know, is going to, you know, I don't know. Look, that's the thing. You start to read into these things, but there's no doubt about it. The guy in the dugout is probably the better guy to have in the dugout as far as Tottenham are concerned for this game here. So,
is that the West Ham one and the Spurs one?
Sorry,
is that the West Ham?
yeah. So it's terrible. I'm barely keeping a lid on it, Gio, because I'm fuming.
It's hard, isn't it? Because on one hand, there's a little voice in my head that says, like, hang on, you've not played this weekend yet. You could go win tomorrow, and it's just as you were kind of thing. And then you've got a winnable fixture next weekend. So there is that voice that says, hang on, you're getting upset because other teams have won. It's still technically in West Ham's hands here, but it's hard not to witness, to watch Everton looking really organised, really tough to break down. Leeds barely had a sniff. To see Southampton going and beating a team at their place that we drew with last week, it was almost like you got this impression that the pundits or whatever were almost saying you should be grateful for a draw at home to Chelsea. You respect the point, and I don't want to respect the point. I want all 3 points here, and it does increase the pressure tomorrow. And I think if we played first again this weekend and drew away to Spurs, I think it would have been okay. I mean, right, fine, let's see. But now, because of the other results, I think actually the pressure's massively increased on Moyes here, and he's going to have to show a little bit of adventure where a point might be okay, but I think it's also the performance too is going to be under scrutiny, which is if you sit back for 70 minutes of the game and accept the point and play for the point, I think you better bloody make sure you beat Nottingham Forest, otherwise that London Stadium could be a tough place for David Moyes next weekend. But anyway, anything else you'd like to add before we wrap it up?
No, just a lot of concern ahead of tomorrow. So he has to make it work, Gio. This was his plan. This is his plan to sit back and to to play for the respect the point. He's the only one that seems to be doing it, by the way. So let's see. It has to work. He now needs to go to Tottenham and needs to get something. Now needs to beat Nottingham Forest, and it really is as simple as that. So this is his. At the start it was because the players hadn't settled. There's always something. There's something else now, and now we've got this crazy situation where we should have expected to be. He's trying to manipulate. He's trying to massage the figures, and I've seen a lot of that. 'Cause obviously, I've done a couple of videos about how much he spent. A lot of figures being massaged here and stuff like that. Let's not forget how much he spent. Let's also not forget how much he's hemorrhaged. Pellegrini had just been on £100 million spree before Moyes came in. He's lost a lot of money here. But you look through that this is David Moyes' squad. This is David Moyes' squad. This is David Moyes' tactics. He's been able to build an infrastructure around him at the club, and we now find ourselves scrapping at the bottom. But other teams look lively, Gio. Look, they've got a spring in their step. They really do. All of them, the newly promoted teams, the other guys, everyone seems to have a vibrancy about them. And I don't know if it's just because it's West Ham, and you're a West Ham fan. We got to feel like we're stale.
Well, it can't be just that though, because Southampton have just won away at Chelsea, but Bournemouth have just won away at Wolves. We failed to do that this season. We are in the bottom 3, so it can't. If we were 10th, I'd say it is West Ham. It is because you're a West Ham fan. Calm down. We're not. We're in the bottom 3. You have to. Almost quite the opposite. You were saying there, I'm completely calm. I'd say, well, I don't see how you are, but we're in the bottom 3. Have you not seen where we are in the league? The other good thing is there's still a lot of games to be played. There's still 15 games to be played at peak, so there's more than a third of the season to go. But the problem is,
I don't want to hear a peep out of him. I really don't. I really don't. He just needs to go. He needs to go. I don't want to hear about Danny Ings not being ready. I don't want to hear about any of it. He needs to go and win the games. Ideally, win both the next 2. 4 points, fine. But I want it to pipe down and stop talking about what he's going to do and go and do it.
Just wait till Thursday, man. I'm sure there'll be a new podcast out for you to listen to
somewhere.
Wait.
Lovely.
He'll tell you about how he's been successful for 25 years and done 1,000 games. You don't do that unless you're one of the best managers, and how he grew up in the shadows of Jock Stein, and how go on Bill Shankly and all that stuff. That's why he's a manager today. There'll be a podcast for you next week, Gonzo.
Can't wait. Probably won't mention Sunderland, will he? But there you go. Anyway.
Or he also said, Dad, we'll leave that out.
Never mentions that stuff. Yeah.
Anyway, right, we're going to leave it there, but we are live tomorrow at 3:25 with our build-up show where we'll have the West Ham team, the Tottenham team, and we'll be interacting with you lot in the live chat. But if you've enjoyed this video, please do drop a like, comment, subscribe to Hammers Chat. But there you go. The results have gone against West Ham this afternoon, and we'll kick off tomorrow's game against Tottenham in the bottom three. We'll catch you then.